There she goes. She's got the glasses. The title of her talk is The Real Amanita Muscaria, Science, Safety and Ancient Insight. And I'll grab you, you can have this microphone, and I'll give you a 10-minute gold saucer over there. That's all right, take as long as you need. And if you've got audience questions, I'll run the mic for you. Welcome, Mel.
Hi everybody. I actually wrote my speech because I would never remember everything and I get it all out of context and I'd ramble off, so please bear with me. So basically I'm Mel Smith and it's a real honour to be here at MardiGrass, a place that has held the line for plant and fungal medicines long before it was trendy and long before it was tolerated, so thanks guys. And it's because of gatherings like this, decades of protest and culture and knowledge sharing, that Amanita muscaria is now stepping out of the shadow and the stigma. So thank you truly for creating a space for these conversations because you've helped pave the fungal path.
A bit closer.
To the mic, is that better? Oh my goodness. I'll start by being very transparent. I'm not a mycologist. I did start a science degree, never finished, sort of found my way through life, ended up with a couple of auto diseases, which really fueled my path for wellness, and that's been sort of self-taught ongoing for over 30 years, and I'm doing really well. Basically one day I live in a colder climate of the country and this mushroom appeared to me magically one day as I was walking my dog and I'd only ever seen them in fairy tales, you know, and as a little girl I loved the fairies, and I happened to have living with me at the time a beautiful homeopathist, and I took the dog home, came home, grabbed my brown paper bag, picked up this mushroom, raced home and said, look what I got! And I had no idea what it was. It was just that red and white mushroom. And she goes, oh yeah, that's the Amanita muscaria, the fly agaric. We use it in homeopathy to help treat epilepsy because of the... Oh, she goes, you know, and I've gone, okay, well, this was back in the time there wasn't a lot of information on the internet, but I just started looking, got very intrigued, and my mind was absolutely blown. Now, I'm into anything basically. I was never into cannabis, never into drugs, never into, definitely not mushrooms. You know, had the opportunity, went, no, that stuff's bad for you, because they told me in school. So that's pretty much how I got interested. That's the very first story that happened. I'm not going on scripts, I'm sorry about that. But basically, over the years that I've been listening, watching, working with this in private study only, I started to lead a national observational study within the fitness industry. This is purely out of my own curiosity because of the ability of this to work in the fitness industry through behavioural patterns that have been emerging, that we've been studying. So it's really interesting. But today my goal is hopefully to offer some clarity around the Amanita muscaria. It's not about miracle cures or uncritical praise, it's about reframing the narrative. And basically to open the door to a more nuanced, forward-thinking and frankly overdue conversation about the Amanita muscaria. Basically, there's a lot of mystery and a lot of history with this mushroom. It's not new. It's one of the oldest known entheogens known in human history, and it's been a sacred symbol of transformation, vision, and connection. For a millennia, it was used by the Siberian tribes, just picked beneath the pine trees and the birch trees when they came into season as a community, dried by firelight. and taken in leather pouches across the terrain. It migrated, and so did its influence. In the Nordic world, it became deeply entwined with Odin, the god of war, wisdom, and shamanic initiation. And it echoes through berserker lore, where warriors entered altered states before battle. I mean, these are open for debate. Not everybody says it is. People say it's others, but it's been linked to that, possibly with mushroom help. In the winter, myth says that shamans rode sleighs pulled with reindeers, bringing gifts through smoky stacks. And some say Santa Claus is a mythological remix of Odin. So there's lots of interesting things around it. But it wasn't always myth, it was always ritual. It shaped seasonal rites, warrior codes, and spiritual frameworks. And then came vodka. We talked about alcohol a lot. Vodka came into the shaman and Siberian area and region. It was cheap, accessible, and it basically eroded the mushroom ceremonies. And what was sacred became mocked, dismissed, and eventually buried beneath the intoxication culture. How am I going? Is that all right? Yeah. Some scholars believe Amanita muscaria might be the original soma of the Rig Veda, the divine elixir, described as intoxicating, illuminating, and immoral. Others link it to the Holy Grail. I quite like this one, where seekers pursue the sacred substance and grants. And with this particular mushroom being, sometimes the caps can be quite large, and it's a water-soluble substance, so as they age, they curl up into this big cup. And then overnight the water will fill from the dew, and the water will become red, and you can pick it and you can drink it. And then underneath the gills are white, so it's like drink, what did Jesus say? The blood of Christ and my flesh. And the wafers that you get through communion at church, what does it look like? But the white gills, say. And they never found it because it just disintegrated into the earth. Perhaps. It's just a story, but I like that one. It says here, animals believed to remember also what we forgot. They say reindeer seek it out. Cows, kangaroos, squirrels, foxes have all been observed consuming it, and they're all, people argue they've got a different digestive tract.
Is there any truth in the story that the reindeers used to eat the mushroom, and then the shamans would avail themselves of a byproduct?
Absolutely, urine therapy. So it is said that the reindeer seek this mushroom out, and through the process, the natural process as it goes through the system of the reindeer, it basically converted the idotenic acid into the muscimol and gets weed out through the urine, which would then they go around somehow with a cup. I don't know, maybe forcible. Took the reindeer to water and made it drink, and then they would consume the urine, and then it was considered safe. And it was also the shamans that would take the mushroom, and they would give their water to the rest of the group, if that's sharing urine is what you're about, for sure. But yes. That is what is said, yep. So basically, what we go into is how is such a revered ally, this mushroom over a millennia, to be now deemed, so poisonous and so toxic, and potentially weaponized, It's poisonous, hallucinogenic, deadly, all loaded terms are rarely rooted in the lived truth. And the top myths are it's deadly. So I don't know if you go on Google and you have a look, and I've got some Who Gives a Crap toilet paper with some on it. I stole it from my brother, and it says beautiful toadstool, etc., etc., etc. But do not eat it. It's toxic. So it's everywhere that you look. Used traditionally, Amanita has an incredibly low profile. You're statistically likely to end up in an ER from Panadol or a hangover than from this mushroom. Number two, it's like psilocybin. It's nothing like psilocybin. psilocybin acts on the serotonin receptors. The GABA A receptors are what is activated using the Amanita muscaria. So it works on the same receptors as the antidepressants do. Yeah, completely different pathways, and it's not a trip either. In therapeutic sessions, it's sort of a recalibration, a nervous system reset, sometimes dreamy, sometimes energizing, but generally different. And the myth number 3 is you must heat it to make it safe. So this is where you'll jump on Facebook, and there's a lot of discussion in the Amanita community about safe ingestion, and you know it is noted that some of the tribes would take it and nibble on it raw whilst they're doing their harvesting. The body has a natural way to decarboxylize it anyway, and there's emerging evidence that the brain knows how to switch the muscimol to ibotenic acid and back again, so to recycle itself. So if you do go out and you do discover this mushroom, you do not have to heat it to make it safe. The body, I feel, has the pathways to do it naturally. It's all dose dependent, so handle with care. But no, because people started making it really complicated by bringing in pH values and to talk about the citric acid, but that's not good enough. So it needs a little bit of framework, a little bit of study, and a little bit of getting more research to get that baseline. Pharmacology. Let's talk what we got here. The primary compound muscimol works is a GABA agonist, GABA A agonist. It means it works the same calming system targeted by anti-anxiety meds and muscle relaxants, but without the addictive profile or synthetic baggage. It calms the nervous system, it supports sleep, it restores parasympathetic tone, and helps bring people back into their bodies. It's not a trip, it's a reset. I like to call it the mutiny, often the head and the body. You lead with your heart or you lead with your head, and often I feel there's people walk around with that disconnect, and I say it's the end of the mutiny. It's where the brain and the body all talk together and there's that full communication. Yeah. There's a couple of studies that have shown neuroprotective properties in rat models exposed to neurotoxins linked with Parkinson's, and reduced progression of gastric carcinogenesis, also done in rats. But we're banning a compound with potential cancer fighting and neuroprotective qualities, but we promote substances with high toxicity profiles, which you touched on before. Now, the next one is the ibotenic acid, and this is where it gets controversial. It's a controversial cousin. It's an excitatory, but in traditional doses, there's evidence it may support the neuroplasticity, helping the brain adapt. And talked a lot about this on the previous topic, but basically repattern itself. And that's got to be under the right conditions as well. The fear around it mostly comes from studies where it's been injected directly into the brains of rats. It is a known neurotoxin causing lesions, so they basically rip off your skull, get a lovely little needle and just inject the pure compound ibotenic acid directly into the brain. So it's these headlines on how that is used which makes the fear campaign for the Amanita muscaria so scary. Now, where it gets interesting is muscimol's activation of the GABA A receptors helps dampen the transmission of pain signals. So in the brain and the spinal cord, in Poland they call it the medicine of the spine. It doesn't numb pains like opioids, it turns down the volume on overactive neural pathways. So when we talk about neuroplasticity and people who get sent to pain clinics where they try and tell you it's all in your head and teach you to ignore it, so it's something that it would be really interesting to study, to marry those two together to test the neuroplasticity about relieving pain. That really sparks my interest. I've heard also countless reports of people finding relief from menstrual pain, nerve discomfort, migraines, and neuropathic tension. And there's a quality to it that's just not symptomatic, and it feels like it is a nervous system calibration. Now, what I do try and talk about these days in general when it comes to plant medicines, and my poor husband, who's so mainstream, he gets beaten around the head so often by me, I think he wants to walk away sometimes. I love to call Amanita muscaria a functional food, because it is what it is. It's the fruit of a fungus, it's food, because there's so much stigma, and I get this from my husband. He says, but it's a drug. And I said, it's not a drug, it's a functional food, you idiot. I know in pure scientific terms it would be considered a drug, but if we can talk about these things as foods, as things that we should have incorporated into our diet long before it got condemned, I think the world would be a better place today. Thank you. So that's why I term food functional food and not a drug. But it would also be remiss of me not to mention there were a couple of other known toxins in this mushroom, specifically muscarine, muscasone, and butadiene, but they are in tiny little minuscule amounts that they don't count them as relevant, but they are there. Okay. Amanita versus psilocybin, and there's a couple of experts in the room, so let's see how they look at me after this. But it's, is it better than psilocybin? It's not a competition, right? No way, guys, because it works in a completely different system. And health and wellness is not a one-size-fits-all. You've always got to have your options. As we mentioned before, the medical system have your options. You just keep going further down the line. Well, this is just another one over the line that needs to shine. Go me. They're two distinctive, very pharmacological different and pharmacological mechanisms, different historical uses and therapeutic implications. So each has its place and its benefits and its limitations, but in a landscape increasingly shaped by commercialisation and controlled narratives, it's time to talk about what's been left in the margins. Psilocybin, I think, works a lot. I'm not an expert, so I googled this. Ego dissolution, mystical insight, and emotional catharsis. I believe it's is it an external kind of experience? But I've learned something that you underwrite said in this, the psilocybin can be made an internal experience. It was so good to hear. Amanita, on the other hand, is depending on which way you take it, is an excitatory or a calmative, and helps with nervous system regulation and resilience. Physical grounding, we find, is a very, very big one. People seem to walk their place on this earth because that mutiny has been closed, so they feel whole. Sleep support, pain modulation, behavioural research, and also, another one for being a really good habit breaker. It seems to be a common thread. So rather than taking you sort of out, Amanita really brings you into soul, spirit, and just that kind of oneness feeling, and also into wellness. So because your body is in harmony, top to bottom, you feel like you're working together, then you'll find that your choices change in life. You start making better choices, food, decisions, things happen around you, friendships may fall away because you're not the same person anymore, all for the better. I think we're here for joy on this planet, so let's see if we can help with that. So we're, basically what it says here is it's where psilocybin excels at initiating spiritual transformation and vision. Amanita's Muscaria offers stability, endurance, integration, especially valuable for people navigating real-life demands and recovering from chronic stress with that parasympathetic, you get that fight or flight gets dampened a lot. People have come and said that the fear is still there, but I have the courage to move through it. So you do it despite the fear. Yeah. So it's and also with Amanita, it's not about ego death. It's about ego repair. It's about wrapping that little ego in a blanket, looking at it and go, "I got you, buddy," because the adult eyes are looking in this world now. Yeah. Very much a nurture, and it's also about upgrading outdated software and rewriting the operating system entirely. You know, when we're born, we've got like the old Linux system that I think most of us would remember of that age group. The Linux system, but we're all operating on those, what's the biggest one now, Apple or whatever it is. So we're upgrading the operating system, you know, what no longer serves us. So that's that whole wrapping that ego in that blanket, and as you now stack new adult visualizations of your reality, you know, the world that you see today. It's quite cool there. But despite all of this, Amanita muscaria is currently listed as a Schedule 9 substance. It's the highest level of restriction alongside heroin and MDMA, and that means it's technically illegal to possess, use or distribute without government approval. And yet it's neither addictive nor associated with deaths from responsible use. Its traditional use spans thousands of years across multiple cultures. Its risks are often exaggerated or misunderstood, usually informed by flawed animal studies, with the direct injection of the isolated compound into the brain. But meanwhile, psilocybin is gaining legal access for therapeutic use, and alcohol remains celebrated. And during, you know, we all know during COVID lockdowns, the bottle shops were deemed essential, while gyms, parks and social gatherings were shut. Yet the policy decision wasn't about health, it was about control. And it reflects the deepest societal patterns of numbing over healing. Makes me angry. So we had a brief look at the latest pharmaceutical landscape. We were talking about Panadols, aspirins, and whatnot before. It's readily available over the counter, leading cause of liver failure and self-harm overdose. The benzodiazepines and C drugs are widely prescribed, despite being habit-forming, impairing cognition, and producing withdrawal symptoms similar to hard drugs. We all know what happened with the opioids over in America. And antidepressants are often prescribed long-term without informed consent about potential discontinuation syndrome. So I think it was like 1 on 7 was mentioned before that they're on, antidepressants. Yet it isn't really about safety, because Amanita is wild, uncultivated, unpatentable, and remains prohibited. And it's about context, corporatisation and cultural narratives. It's about fearing what we don't understand, especially when it grows freely, can't be commodified, and teaches self-sovereignty over self-dependence. Yeah? But is the risk worth the norm? And yes, some people have taken Amanita muscaria irresponsibly. You know, we all hear about the 1%ers, the hero doses, but we also have this in the alcohol culture in this country, where I think it says about 20% of binge drinkers are functioning alcoholics. But one is condemned and one is a hero. And even I got the dose. Has anyone done the measure your standard drink around the corner? How'd you go? Yeah. I think I was 1.5. Right. Yeah. And it's on every corner. I think, what does it say, in 2024, in November 2024, 5.3 million people died from alcohol-related illness or reasons, and it's 5% of the total world population. Yet Amanita muscaria, it's had 3 deaths attributed to it. It is said that 2 of them are potentially from misidentification. So 5.3 million to 1. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. The path forward is we need to move beyond the demonisation of nature and towards honest conversations about healing. We need to distinguish between regulation and wellness, and challenge the systems that punish plants while protecting pills. Amanita muscaria is not a psychedelic escape, it's a neurological restoration. It's in its time we stop fearing it and understanding it. And this gets me every time. Australia used to be at the forefront of science and innovation, but what happened to evidence-based policy? Where to from here? I think I've missed the whole page, but that's okay. So parts across Europe and America, bar one state, Amanita muscaria is legal. They're so far ahead of us, in fact. Since the introduction of psilocybin to therapeutic sessions, Amanita muscaria sales have absolutely, they've not done this, they've gone like this. Yeah? It's massive. So it's currently being explored for a wide range of applications, such as an anti-anxiety support sleep aid, neuroprotective compound, and a functional aid in PTSD, insomnia, pain, and even physical performance with nervous systems recovery. It's legal elsewhere on this planet. It's growing in popularity. In some circles it's seen not as a psychedelic alternative but a missing piece. Meanwhile, in Australia, we're still locking the cupboard on the fear, not because it's dangerous, but because it doesn't conform. It resists regulation, and this mushroom can only be grown with in symbiosis. So it grows with usually a pine tree or a deciduous tree, oaks. They seem to be popular with. So people. You often talk about this, it must be magic mushroom, you can grow that stuff at home. It's like, no, you can't. So to bring it into a commercial setting makes it rather difficult, because how are you going to get a continuous supply unless you've got a whole, world harvesting for you out in the bush? What do you do? And of the 12 months of the year, you might be lucky to have a 6-7 week season. Right, and then those seasons do fluctuate. One year you might have a whole paddock full, and one year you might have 2 or 3. So is that the reason? We don't know, but we've got to look at it. So it's a struggle though. People are pushing it. As of the 1st of February last year, Amanita muscaria the ibotenic acid was presented in a proposal to go for a Schedule 4 and a Schedule 7. And it completely leapfrogged both of those and went straight back to a 9. So we need more people. We need to get together and get a community happening to challenge all of this. I did skip over a couple of pieces. If we have time to go back, how are we looking for time? Including the questions then? What's the time next?
Is the next speaker here yet?
David Halpern, are you in the building? No.
Look.
Probably he'll turn up.
Look, you go. You happy for me to keep reading, or would you prefer? Do you want to? Yeah. Okay. We've got here. We do have a situation going on in this country regarding this fungus. Amanita was introduced alongside exotic pine plantations. So as you're driving down the highways in the cooler climates, just look. They're pretty easy to see. The season's coming up now. It's not showing up. What it has started doing now, and I have observed this, is it's showing up under native eucalypts. It's starting to invade the eucalyptus forest down in Tasmania. It is considered an introduced weed, but the fact what it is showing is it's adapting to our environment. And, does this need to be looked at? Does it mean we might end up getting our own variety of Amanita australis? That would be pretty cool. Yeah? Woohoo! Then it wouldn't be illegal, maybe? But we don't know because we're not allowed to study it. We're not allowed to genome test it. Is that right? Do we have to apply to government to get all this?
Probably best.
Yes, 100% best too. But to have the people to come together for.
But I think if it were submitted to an organisation that does genome sequencing, would probably slip through.
Yeah, it wouldn't even have to be in this country, would it?
No.
No, it doesn't. We could ship it off overseas. Right, didn't think of that one. Yeah. Yeah, happy to. Look, it's good, it's great. We really need to make some changes and we need people behind it. It's misunderstood and psilocybin has started. Well, cannabis started, psilocybin's kept it going, and we've got the Amanita now coming along and hoping to tag on to people to explore it, to investigate it in therapeutic sessions and beyond. So thank you so much for listening.
Hi, my name's Ray Thorpe. On a comment earlier, I would just like to mention that psilocybin changed my life in a way, and the message was to promote herbs. And this is when I was living at Yukai, and I opened up my shop in Nimbin. I'm running my shop quite happily. And then I had a near-death experience in the desert, and I was carrying Amanita muscaria with me. And I thought, this is the time to ask a question. You know, I nearly died, nearly perished in the desert and saved myself, but that's another long story. And anyway, so I took it.
Before or after taking the Amanita?
No, that was before. Before. So I thought I'd take it because I thought I've had a near-death experience. There's some learning from this, you know. So I went slightly out of camp. I was gold detecting, but I kept, you know, the camp in my eye. And I thought it really didn't work. And then I remembered I got really sweaty. And then a voice came to me that said, because when I just rescued myself, I read out my will. And this voice said, Ray, if you want to live your right life properly, live as if you're dead already. And I didn't pick it up. I didn't understand what the communication was. It was only when I went back into Perth I read, I live as if I'm dead, and what I've written out the will, because I had a couple of shops by then, as I had to give the shops to someone. And I came back here to Nimbin, and I put on a bookkeeper and managers, and we expanded from Nimbin to 54 shops around the world, and in a lot of them, in particularly in America, they're all selling Amanitas. And I would like to see Amanita as part of our diet. And I'm so loving what I'm hearing from you, because the apathy of Australians, it's just shocking. You can't get the support, and I'll join anything that you can suggest, because it will change all of us, and the world will change me. But my question is, I attended a seminar at an anti-genic conference in San Francisco, and I listened to the guy who was totally opposite to you, that all the time said poisonous, and he's doing a thing. He's talking about the GABA, etc., but he's doing the thing about poisonous, toxic. And it turned out I went up to him. I stayed quiet, being a committed worshipper of Amanita muscaria for many reasons, even dancing. Chewing on a piece, dance.
There's just too much on it. It's hours and hours and hours and hours. I could talk here for hours, and perhaps I had to condense that to try and keep on track.
Well, I'll keep this short, but he was condemning it, and I went up to him at the end quietly and said, have you ever taken it? He said, oh no, I did it as a thesis at my unit. I went,
isn't it ironic?
It's like, what? Anyway, I said, well look, I perhaps consider myself an expert because I've sold more than 50,000 doses to people, and my question's coming up now. Not only in America, and probably more, it might be 100,000. I'm talking about Australia. So many people have enjoyed it, the dancing and changing their life. But my question is, my biggest thing, and I only said to somebody who found, and he sent me only a photo on the way here, of an Amanita muscaria, you count the blue mountains. And I said, whatever you do, you must try it. So I was really interested to hear that they're not necessarily nauseous, or
it's all dose dependent. Don't be greedy.
Yeah.
Right.
So you
can, with this, not saying that I've done this ever, But yeah, it's stackable. It's a stackable dose system, so always best on an empty stomach, because what generally happens if you do dose on this, the food can slow down absorption and then you just get slammed. And it's very much a teacher, like just slamming on your bottom. But yeah, so what they would do is they would nibble it, you wait 20 minutes, see what effect, and then you can have another nibble. Now, a nibble would be okay if you wanted to be safe. Everyone is different, by the way. Some people can probably chew on these all day long and get absolutely no effect, or someone can take the smallest amount and have the biggest effect. So it doesn't matter weight or whatever. I find it quite an intuitive teacher. She'll give you what you need. If you don't need anything right then, you're not going to get anything. But if you were to happen, you have to be smart. Right, take a nibble, make sure you've got the identification right. And if you have, if you want to, you're a human. You can experiment on something that grows on the ground. Take a nibble. Don't overdo it. See how you feel in 20 minutes. If you want a little bit more, take more. But generally, the effect at that point is just energized. Usually. Focus, I guess they would take that to, I liken it to, let's say there's a herd of zebras and you've got the alpha male looking out for the crowd. If you just take the right bite and the right amount, you are hyper aware and alert and open to everything that's going on around you. So you're going to protect your herd, you're going to lead them to make smart decisions, take them to better pastures, so you will thrive. Yeah? Or you get Junior over here, who just starts like hoeing in, and next thing you know he's having convulsions on the ground and the whole herd is exposed to danger. So for me it's always about being in control. It's not about being the one hero and I took 10 grams and I was facing on the floor and I felt I was melting. It's like, dude, you're open to attack. No. You know, you're not going to run fast enough, you're not going to have the legs now, you totally bypass the strength and the focus and the endurance and everything else to run from the tiger. Yeah, so that's life. Everything in consideration.
Is there a bit of time? I was just going to say, sorry, we missed the first half of the presentation, so sorry if you've covered this already. But are there any lookalikes that you might get confused? Because they seem like quite an obvious looking mushroom.
I've nearly picked a lookalike, but then I noticed that it didn't. It was, and I don't even know the name of it. Look, I'm not a mycologist. I only know the Amanita muscaria. I wouldn't know what psilocybin mushrooms look like. I do know turkey tail. That's it. That is the extent of my knowledge, and I like eating regular mushrooms. Okay. But look, white stem, like brilliant snow white stem gills, but it has to have the petticoat, the frill, the annulus. Thank you. These look-alike that I saw had the red top, but it had like almost white with blush pink, and it had no annulus.
Amanita stands for Cephala.
Thank you. So yes, and yeah, but I've only seen that a couple of times, and definitely, and also don't go the button mushrooms, because what grows near them is the deadly, is it Amanita thalidize, death cap, yeah. But if you scratch it and it's red, usually it's right. But the smaller they are, so the Amanita, as it grows with the active compounds, its cap in its small form contains the whole amount. It doesn't get stronger as it gets bigger. So some people will go foraging and they'll eat the little pink thing. Oh, it's only a little one, I'm just going to eat the whole thing. And I see them do that, and then they go and have another one, and then they go and, because they think that just because they're small they're okay, and it's like, dude, that's fully potent, man. You know? Otherwise, get one that's orange. That's where the dew has come, and being water soluble, the active ingredients, the active compounds get washed off with the dew and whatnot. But yes, you can. To answer your question, absolutely, but just don't overdo it.
just on that point, I think you probably answered it. Is there a better time during the evolution of each mushroom from that button through to being totally flat and quite larger at the end of its life? Is there any difference at all in preparing those, drying them? It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just don't take it all. Leave some.
Okay, on that note, let's give Mel a big MardiGrass thank you. That was most interesting. I'm sorry I actually missed a little bit of it. And David's over there, standing by, ready.